Good morning, everyone. Namaste. I'm going to call in Archangel Michael to place the white light of protection around us with his blue seal, as well as I'm going to call in Saint Germain in the violet flame, Archangel Zachiel in the violet fire, and pink and golden white light, Christ light, and the Manama golden Christ light energy, because we're going to be reading about my setting boundaries for peace with a narcissist and codependents. Okay, and I'm going to be using a couple different crystals for this. It says, I find the first step to effective learning and eventual transformation is to dismay my misconception and shatter my illusions. In the first part of this book, we're going to look at what narcissism actually means. We'll examine the typical characteristics of the average narcissist and how you can identify one. You'll learn how to tell the difference between someone who's narcissistic and someone who is abusive. They are not necessarily mutually exclusive, meaning that they're not always the same. We'll bust all the myths that you might be harboring about narcissism too. Next, we'll look at codependency and how it's different from being a narcissistic and connections between narcissism and codependency. What does psychology have to say about these two terms? How can you tell if you're in a codependent relationship? We hear that quite often here on this app especially. How can you tell if your codependent relationship is a narcissistic better than a codependent person? Then you'll find out if it's really possible to be free of manipulation and toxic gaslighting. We'll see how to prevent yourself from falling for the same narcissistic tactics over and over again. You'll learn how to respond to those behaviors in the way that leaves you with the dignity and self-respect intact. Next up, you have ever tried taking a look at your social connections to identify the toxic people that are actually in your life. I think this is necessary because for most of us, family and friends are very big blind spots when it comes to identifying toxicity. How can you handle a narcissistic family member? What is the best way to deal with a codependent parents and siblings? We'll look at real examples and scenarios of this. You'll learn how to identify these traits in your family members, your coworkers, and your close friends. You'll learn how to mentally condition yourself to handle them and the best time to let go if you absolutely need to. Armed with the knowledge that you have gained from this earlier parts of the book, we'll dive into the last section and seek to teach you the importance of setting boundaries and the most practical way to do it. You'll learn how to create boundaries at work, with your family, and even your significant others. You'll learn how to avoid necessary arguments and bickering by expressing your boundaries and reinforcing them. You'll see how to handle toxic people and what you can't walk away from, without losing your mind, and how to say no without falling for the guilt trip. So, I don't know about you guys, but I'm at a place where I no longer, and I see these people very clear for who they are right away. But for majority of my life, I struggled not understanding any of this. And they fool a lot of people. So they're generally very charismatic people that really kind of pour and love dump on people when they first meet them, which is why people are attracted to them. And they also have the same hurt and pain that an empath has. So when you meet them, you open up and you think they're great, and you start sharing your trauma, and then they understand it, which a lot of people don't understand trauma unless they've been through it. But a narcissist really does, and they say and do the right things to make you feel like you can really trust them and that they really understand you. That is how they trap you and they get you. Love you all. I hope that helps. Namaste.